Well, I think it comes from, being kind of feeling like an outsider, not understanding how relationships were. I mean, just wanting a girlfriend I had the same girlfriend in my mind from first grade to seventh grade. And her name was Susie, and she was in a bunch of my classes. And sometimes you go from third grade to fourth, and then you get to school and you find out she's not in your class. God, where is she? But anyway, I there wasn't anyone else I cared about it other than this one little girl, Susie, who I guess this is the first time I really thought about this. It was unrequited. The only thing I knew about love was unrequited. You know what I'm saying? The only thing I knew about love was you can love someone and they can't love you back. Now I know people will go like, "What do you mean? You're in first grade. It's not love." Well, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. It lasted till I got to junior high school, and then somehow I moved on. Anyway, by the way, when we played the Cut in October, she was there, which was awesome. Yeah, she was there with her husband and a bunch of people, and I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." So I've also
We're
met.
going to let people know the Cut is a club in Gloucester. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Robert has got all of us together again, the original band, which is
Yeah.
exciting. But
So also her son is he's really really good, and he was on a school trip from Linfield High School. I used to entertain the Linfield High School chorus and band every 2 years. They would come down to Nashville and they would hit all the things that you hit when you go down there. But one of the things they did was came to my record label, which is in a little house by itself out in part of town. And I would spend the day showing them how to run a little label, and I'd pull up the Pro Tools and show them how to record, and then they'd break for lunch. And anyway, this boy came up to me and he goes, "Hi, you used to be in love with my mother." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I knew exactly who he was right away because there was only one girl so for all those years. And where is that? I think it's right here. I know you'll have to edit this out, but where is it? I did a painting about it. Oh, here it is. Here we go. This is one of my paintings. It's called "The Secret to Staying in Love," and there she is, Susie Landry.
Robert, read it aloud.
It says, "The secret of staying in love." There's me, and there's her. "Just don't think about any other girl from first to seventh grade. It was easy for me." So that's painting. Where is this? Painting number 141 from a long time ago. That's from a show that I did called Books, and yeah. So I
So,
just did on Books.
so
Yeah,
you writing songs,
back to writing songs.
so
Yeah,
prolific.
yeah.
Is it always the same way that the idea comes to you? Explain a couple of different ways that things happen.
So when I was young, it used to be a struggle to try to think of something to write about. I go back and look at those early lyrics, and they're just horrible. But I'm trying. I'm writing about, I might hear a song about transcendental meditation by the Beach Boys, and then try to write something about that, But but as time went on, it got easier and easier, and ideas would come so fast that there's no way I could write them all. And I would just start filling notebooks with song titles, ideas of songs. But usually the title, especially when I moved to Nashville, the title became really important. In Nashville, I started co-writing, and I'd always really, pretty much written by myself. Once in a while, something I write with somebody, but I'm just used to having an idea for a song and writing it. When I went to Nashville, everybody co-writes, and the reason that they co-write is because there's more publishers involved. There's more opportunities to sort of get a song cut, and so now there's 3 and 4 writers on songs now. But then back then, I co-wrote a lot. So when you co-write, when you walk in for a writing session, you have to have an idea. Maybe you have 10 ideas that you throw out, And I don't know about that. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. And then you find out when you do that, that your idea might sound good to someone, but they have a completely different take on it than you had. And then you're going, oh, that's not what I meant. But wait a minute, that's cool. That's a little. So every time I write is different. So I wrote a song for the new record called "Wrong Thing," and I wasn't even out of bed yet before this little melody started in my head, and the words just kind of I just spit them out. By the end of that day, I'd written it, sung it, played it, sent it off to you to play the drums on it. I mean, sometimes it's that fast.
Please like and subscribe to the Window YouTube channel and become an official VIP supporter of Window on Patreon. This will give you access to ad-free episodes and exclusive content that only VIP supporters see.
I really feel like, and this came from another one of my songwriting heroes, Nick Lowe. When you write a song, it's not don't spend a year on it. It's not that precious. Just write it. And if it's going someplace and it's catchy and people like it, maybe it ends up on your record, whatever. But otherwise, just move on. Even in the studio, if you're trying to catch that magic of a really good take and it's not working out, toss it and then try something else.
It's interesting how you point out that sometimes you'll wake up and you have something going on in your head, and you take someone like Paul McCartney who says it all the time. He has dreamt songs and woken up and said, ask John Lennon, is this something? Did I lift this from something? Or
Yeah. I can't tell you how irritating that is in the middle of the night to have something you're in a dream and there's a song in the dream and you're singing the song or you listen to the song and then you go like, and you kind of wake up a little bit and then you go like, oh, and then it's off to, run downstairs. It used to be with a tape recorder. Now, of course, it's just your phone. And it's like, there's a song in the thing of a song. And you wake up the next day and you go listen to it. And most of the time it's just horrible, but it sounded great in the dream. But I'll tell you one song that came to me almost entirely in a dream. And that was Hitman, that you played the drums on our first release for RCA. And that song just like, that was fully formed. And I just had to go and sing it into the tape recorder. And that was that.
Do you have the anxiety if you don't write it down immediately or record it? Can it get lost?
No, it will get lost. I've even written down a great song, great melody, blah blah blah, instead of the idea as an experiment to see if I'll remember it in the morning, because I used to think, why are you getting up again? But you don't. Yeah, at least I don't. Maybe some people do, but I don't. So I learned that. I got to go downstairs and sing this thing. Now, I don't need the songs like I used to. Like I needed to have songs. I needed to write them for me. Then I needed to try to write them in Nashville for other artists. But now I'll see a great band playing a great song that probably doesn't exist, and I'm loving it, and I'm just going back to. I'm not getting up for that.
It's also interesting that you say, look, Nick Lowe stated, look, if it's something that doesn't come, move on. It's not the end of the world. I've heard Elton John say the same thing. If it doesn't come right out, don't push it. Move on.
Yeah.
So, 1977, Boston,
Yes.
Massachusetts. There was a studio called Studio B right on Boylston Street. You had a bunch of songs written, and you went in, met with the people, and you recorded your first real recording called Sweet Nothing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that.
So I was writing songs. I was playing in my duo or whatever, but that, we weren't, since we pretty much played every club that would have us, and now we'd run out of clubs. So we're back home, and I thought, all right, I want to get a record deal. How do I do it? And I thought, well, I'll just make a record. I'll make a record, and then I'll send that record to all the record labels, and they'll see that I'm a recording artist. It's really stupid, but and I actually, maybe 3 days before it was time to record, I didn't really have a band. I had my friend Doug, who was going to play acoustic guitar, but I needed like a drummer and a bass player. And I met a couple guys. I think it was in a bar in Peabody. And I was like, hey, I'm making a record in a couple days. You want to play on it? Like, because I overheard them talking. And they were awesome. And I said, I can't pay you, but I can give you 10 copies of the record, whatever. Um, it blows my mind to this day that I thought it was that I pressed 1,000 copies. You know what? I only needed to press 100 at the most, but I didn't know. I thought this is. I mean, I just believed that this was what way it was going to be, and thank goodness also for those great people like Alan D. Smith, that was the engineer at Studio B. I knew nothing. This was really my college education in the music business, at least the creating the music part of it. And I just soaked it all up. And from that point on, there's no place I wanted to be more than the studio.
It's
Just
a
love.
fantastic record. And for someone like myself who listens to it and has followed you, all the seeds were there. I mean, on the short documentary I did here, When You Give Me Your Love. I mean, that's classic Robert Ellis Orrall. I just love it. Following
By
that,
the way, I do want to tell you, I sent that record off to every record label that existed. Okay. And I have, and it's in my other studio in Florida. I have a notebook where I compiled all the rejection letters, and it just says rejected on the front. And it's maybe 30 rejection letters. And some of them were those ones that just say, sort of a form letter, but some were, it's typed by somebody and signed by, for instance, Joe Galante at RCA. Sorry, this doesn't work up to our standards. I got to show that when I was signed to RCA all those years later, and I'm not the first time. I made the 3 albums for RCA with you in the 80s. But when I went down to Nashville in the 90s and I stumbled into another record deal and they signed me again, I was able to show that rejection letter to the president of RCA Nashville and say, I think he thought that was great. He thought
that's
that was
fantastic. Fantastic. Following Sweet Nothing, and I'm looking at, I have, first of all, I have papers everywhere here because your whole history is huge. Following that in 1979, you got a chance to record what was called the Big 12-inch single, and you had a wonderful drummer, Seuss, who you got to play on that. And
Yeah.
then there were a couple of other band members. Tell me about the 2 band members, and specifically the guitarist who
Yeah.
you didn't think would ever even give you the time of day. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah. So when I told you I had a band when I was in the 6th grade, and it was called the 2+2s. The 2+2s did 2 shows in their history, but one was a birthday party when nobody showed up, and the other was like a school thing on a stage. And after we played, this other band played that had real amps, and they had this guitar player, all through high school, he was the guitar god of Linfield, Massachusetts, no doubt about it. I mean, but I was always like, oh, geez, I would, someday, I don't know how much I talked to him at all until I thought, if I'm gonna do this, if I'm gonna have a band, I need to ask this guy, Kook Lowry, if he'll be in the band. So he lived in this big house on Main Street in Linfield. And I remember parking the car and walking up and up and up to the front door. And as we know now, nobody used that front door, but I'm bing, bing, bing. And his dad answered and he goes, Kook, there's someone here for you. And I went in the kitchen. I was like, so Kook, I'm going to start a band, and I'd want to know if you might want to be in it. And he was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that's how I remember it. I know my memory is sketchy because I was so anxious about even asking him. But and he was good friends with a great bass player named Don Walden. And next thing you know, we're rehearsing, and uh, we played around for a bit, and we made this a single on a 12-inch record of a couple songs that I'd written, and that led to bigger and better things, including David Stefanelli on the drums. So,
Aren't you kind? You're very kind. The cover of Big 12-inch single
yeah.
has special meaning. Talk about that image that's on that cover of that record.
So my brother Mark was doing really, really cool, sort of experimental, odd photography. He's a true visual artist. He's I wish he painted more, but I mean, I've got so many photographs of his, and they're he just had this whole thing that he was doing that was so far ahead of its time. And I think by then he might have even been going to art school. But yeah, so I just looked through his photographs and said, you know, can we use this for the cover? He was actually, he had photographs in later covers, even the Contain Yourself album. The third album we made, if you pull open the sleeve, there's a photograph by Mark Orrall in there. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Big 12-inch single is when you kind of got it to some local Boston radio stations and you started getting a little attention,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. Once that band kind of was playing, that's when I got to audition for your band. Seuss, your former drummer, went on. The story is that there was a wonderful band called Luna. They were like a almost like a progressive rock band, and their keyboard player Bobby Brandon had suggested me. I'm a little younger than you guys, not by much, but back in no, just about 5 years. But in those days, that was a big gap. So
Yeah.
I remember coming and auditioning and being really nervous, but it was weird. It was not weird. It was crazy because you were the guy I had just seen maybe a month before at Jasper's and was like, what is this guy doing here? So it's a wonderful, wonderful memory for me. The album, 1981, Fixation, which is when I entered, and it was just a huge learning experience for me. Talk a little bit about Fixation, because that was when RCA stepped in.
So we recorded a lot of those songs at Studio B as demos, any chance I got to go in the studio. And again, they were so great at that studio. And Alan, I mean, I've got so many photographs and so many songs on cassettes here in the studio that I don't even remember demoing, but it says Studio B. And it's like, and then we were playing at Jonathan Swift's in Cambridge, and this fellow, Paul McNally, RCA gave him his own imprint. So he was with Sire Records, and he had signed like Pretenders and Madness, and he was like, I'm going to start my imprint. And somehow he heard about us. I think there was an article in Boston Magazine about this band that, like, if you went to see them, if two friends went to see this band at different points in the night, you would have a completely different impression of what they were, because we would play rock songs, ska songs, punk songs, Barry Manilow type ballads, just everything we played. We didn't have like one sound, you know what I mean? And again, that's just the songwriter in me wanting to write songs and every kind of song. And even anyway, so he saw us play at Jonathan Swift's, and we got a record deal. And then it was time to make the real record. And of course, we went back to Studio B. And for most of it, we did finish it out at Longview Farms, which is was another great studio here in Massachusetts.
You're right. We recorded so many songs back then. And I mean,
Yeah.
You were so prolific and still are. I just want to say right now that your career is still going. And we'll talk about what's coming up soon with
Sure.
the new stuff. Fixation, recorded, hitting the road. The band did a lot of wonderful things. And again, it was at that time where all these great new bands were coming out. We opened for U2 on their very first run through America. And
Yeah, look, looking back at some of the tour dates, which I was kind of putting them together for when we all got together in January to work on this album. Um, it blows my mind that the first time we opened for U2.
Part 5 up next of episode 1 featuring Robert Ellis Orrall. Robert continues to tell us about the days of opening for U2 and some nice words from Bono Vox. Plus the many shows he performed at the original Ritz in New York City. Also, a top 40 hit comes to Robert as a duet with a famous country artist. All of this coming up on part 5 of Window featuring Robert Ellis Orrall, a different kind of podcast. Follow Window on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and LinkedIn.